Welcome back to Figuring It Out. I'm Rachel Lee. If you're new here, this is a space where we don't pretend to have everything figured out. We get real about where we're at and figure it out as we go. So if something in this episode resonates with you and you feel seen, if you will, follow the podcast, leave a review, or send it to someone who might need to hear it too. All right, let's talk about self-doubt. Not the cute little imposter syndrome conversations people are throwing around online. I mean the deeper kind. The kind that quietly shapes your decisions, your relationships, your confidence, your voice, your standards, your ability to receive good things. Because here's something I've been thinking about lately. Somebody gave us our self-doubt. We weren't born questioning our worth. And the real question is, were they even qualified to define it in the first place? Because when I really started looking at my own life, honestly, I realized a lot of things I believed about myself were, in fact, inherited, learned, conditioned, absorbed. And most of it all happened before I was even old enough to question it. So today, we're talking about inherited emotional rules. The things people teach us about ourselves, sometimes without even realizing they're doing it. And what it looks like to finally decide, I'm good. I don't want to carry this anymore. So, let's get into it. When I was 19 years old, I bought myself a truck. And listen, this was a huge deal to me. I qualified for it myself. I had the down payment. I could make the payments. I did it on my own. And I was really proud of myself. Not because it was like some souped up luxury vehicle. Shoot, I didn't even know what those were at that time, to be honest with you. But because it represented independence, capability, possibility for me. And then my mom got home from work. What she said to me was, no child of mine is going to drive a nicer vehicle than me or your dad. So I was given a choice. Keep the truck and move out, or take the truck back and be able to continue to live there. Ultimately, I took the truck back because I didn't have anywhere else to go. And to be real, at 19 years old, that moment did something to me. I was pissed. My feelings were hurt. I felt rejected. But I think what I internalized at that age was actually something deeper. That I wasn't worthy of having good things yet. That somehow, because I was only 19, I hadn't earned it. Like, adults deserved nice things. Parents deserved nice things, but not me yet. What I didn't realize then was that this moment would eventually become the thing that pushed me to leave Arizona in the first place. But now, as a mother myself, I look at that moment completely differently. Because if my kids went out tomorrow and bought themselves a vehicle on their own, without me having to financially support it in any way, shape, or form, including insurance, oh my God, I would celebrate the fuck out of them. I might take out an ad, right? Because isn't that the goal? To want our children to have more, do more, experience more, become more? That realization hit me hard as I got older. And to be fair, my mother didn't hate me. I think she was just carrying regret, limitations, and self-doubt she never fully dealt with herself. Because the truth is, somebody probably handed her those beliefs too. And so unfortunately, some of them got handed to me. And truly, I don't think that's just like a unique to me type of situation. I think a lot of us are walking around with emotional rules we never consciously chose. Rules like don't outshine people Don't want too much. Don't take up space. Don't make people uncomfortable. Don't become too much. Don't surpass your family. Don't ask for more. And definitely don't believe too highly of yourself. And the scary part is, most of us don't even realize those rules are running our lives. We tend to think, well, this is just who I am. But a lot of what we call personality is actually conditioning. And once I started paying attention to those types of things, I started seeing how much of my life had been shaped by self-doubt that had never really even belonged to me in the first place. Because that truck story, it didn't just stay about the truck. It spilled into relationships, into how I saw myself, into what I tolerated, into needing validation, wanting to feel chosen, wanting to feel wanted. Even moving to New York didn't magically heal that. Leaving Arizona was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. It gave me distance from a lot of family dysfunction. It gave me independence. It gave me the chance to become Rachel outside of everybody else's expectations or perceived expectations, if you will. And yes, I left Arizona, but I brought the wounds with me because changing locations doesn't automatically change emotional programming. You can physically leave somewhere while emotionally still living by the same rules. And I definitely did that for a while. And when I look back, there were a lot of years where I accepted emotionally unavailable relationships because I didn't fully know what healthy love actually looked like yet. Not consciously, anyway. I mean, I wasn't sitting there thinking like, this person is inconsistent and emotionally unavailable, but fuck it, I'm going to stay anyway. It was way quieter than that. It was wanting connection, wanting to feel chosen, wanting to believe people. And when partial love is really all you can emotionally understand, that's your normal. You rationalize it. You tell yourself, well, this is just how relationships are. Because when you've never consistently experienced emotional safety, healthy love can actually feel very unfamiliar. And I think a lot of people quietly live there longer than they would like to admit. Not because they're weak, but because somewhere along the line, they learn to accept less than what they actually deserve. I think for a long time, I genuinely believed attention, inconsistency, and emotional availability in pieces meant love. And not because I consciously wanted less for myself, but because emotionally, I didn't know any other way to move in a relationship yet. And that's hard to admit, honestly. But I think awareness requires honesty. Looking back, I can see those relationships different without hating myself for them. Because despite everything, I also believe I was meant to experience certain parts of my life exactly how they happened. There are parts of my life I would never undo. Not for 1 second. Meeting my son's fathers. But I can also acknowledge that certain moments shaped the way I learned to see myself, what I believed I deserved, and how hard it became to fully receive something good without waiting for it to be taken away. Because even now, I'm still learning how to experience joy, connection, or a really good moment without my fear from the past trying to destroy it in my mind before I can fully enjoy it. So I don't sit in regret when I think about my life anymore because I'm still learning. I'm still guarded in some ways. I'm still figuring out what healthy relationships fully look like, even now. Because relationships aren't cookie cutter. Humans aren't cookie cutter. I think part of growth is learning not to shame yourself for the ways you adapted emotionally while still becoming aware enough to move differently. Another thing I've learned as I've gotten older is that relationships and humans are rarely as black and white as people online make them seem. People are complicated. We all carry experiences, wounds, fears, patterns, defenses, and ways we learn to survive. Part of growth for me has been learning how to become more aware without constantly shaming myself for being human too, or allowing other people to define my relationships for me. Because awareness and grace can exist at the same time. Another hard part of getting older is realizing your parents were actually human beings with wounds too. And that realization can change some things for you. Not in a way that will erase all the things that hurt you, but in a way that gives context to it. Years after my own trauma as a child, I found out my mother had experienced trauma growing up too. And suddenly, certain things started to make more sense, but also became harder for me to fully understand at the same time. Part of me still struggles with this, to be fair, because how could someone who knew that kind of pain say some of the things that were said to me? And I still don't completely have an answer for that. What I do think now, though, is that maybe she never really knew how to move forward from what happened to her either, because unprocessed pain has a way of repeating itself across generations. People normalize what they survived, and they also minimize what they were forced to minimize in themselves. And people emotionally respond from wounds they never healed. I don't think most people intentionally wake up trying to damage their children or a child in their life, but I do think unresolved pain can distort the way people love, protect, respond, and show up emotionally, especially when they were never taught how to heal themselves. Having awareness around that can change some things, and that's the difference, because now my kids can come to me about anything. At least I hope they feel that way. But they do know I'm in their corner, always. And I'll go toe to toe with anybody over my children. Not because I'm a perfect mother, but because somewhere along the line, I decided certain things stop with me. That has affected how I move through every relationship in my life, including the one with myself. I think another shift over the last few years of my life has been realizing I don't actually have to keep carrying every belief that was handed to me. Because now I can question it. I can look at certain thoughts, certain fears, certain patterns and ask, does this actually belong to me? Because once I see something clearly, I can decide whether I want to keep carrying it forward. And that doesn't mean pretending something didn't hurt. It means I don't have to keep building my identity around it either. I can acknowledge something was painful, recognize that it shaped something in me, and then move forward. And I think that's what I've been doing over the last few years. I mean, I quit smoking after most of my life. I have stopped drinking. I changed how I move, how I react, although I do still have some moments, but I've definitely changed how I speak to myself and how I care for myself. Not because I magically became confident overnight, but because over time I started building evidence that maybe I could trust myself a little differently now. Yes, I still have moments. Yes, I still catch old patterns showing up sometimes, but I definitely don't live there. That's growth. Before we wrap up, let me say this. If there's one thing I want you to take from this episode, it's this. Some of the things you believe about yourself may not actually belong to you. Paying attention to yourself matters, because once you finally see the pattern, you have the opportunity to move differently. Not perfectly, not instantly, but intentionally. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not becoming a completely different person, but becoming aware enough to stop living automatically from wounds you never consciously chose. And look, I don't have it all figured out. I'm still figuring a lot of this out myself. But I do know this. The more awareness I've gained, the more I've realized people can hand you wounds they never fully learned how to heal in themselves. That doesn't erase the impact, don't get me wrong. But it does make me see things with more complexity now than I did before. Because hurt people really do hurt people. I'm Rachel Lee, and I'll see you next time as we keep figuring it out.